I was always a little bit pissed off at Case for leaving Doyle. Like, Doyle was seconds away from getting on there, and then the wave just like whooshed him. But he was right there. Like, give your robotic hand to like yeet him into the spaceship. I recently went back to the big screen to watch Interstellar in theaters again, this time in IMAX. I saw Interstellar for the first time in theaters when I was 12 years old, and it was such a formative experience for me, and to date, maybe the most like breathtaking and mind-blowing cinema experience I've had watching that movie for the first time. I was thinking about it for months, and it just affected me so profoundly. So when my theater was bringing it back in IMAX this last weekend, I rushed to the opportunity to check it out for the second time on the big screen, 11 years and more actually, after having seen it for the first time. By the way, I really don't do this often. It's like rewatch the same movie multiple times in theaters, even like going back to like old movies being re-released. It's just not something I've done too often. Movies I've seen twice in the theater, I think, are like this, Avengers Infinity War, Top Gun Maverick, and that's it. Now, this is overall, I think, my fourth time watching this movie all the way through, but it was also my first time rewatching it since like 2015, because when it came out on Blu-ray, I saw it like 2 more times, and since then, I'd obviously seen clips here and there, but like, this was the first time that I was properly watching this movie from start to finish in like a whole 10 years, even though it's one of my favorite movies. So obviously when so much time has passed, I've rediscovered and discovered a lot more layers to the film that I already adore. Here's a lot of my takeaways from this rewatch. Spoilers ahead. We meet Cooper as this former pilot who was really great at this one thing, but after some attempts, he didn't really get going. But at this point, the world doesn't really need pilots. It just needs farmers to like maintain the food supply that humanity can still have, which, you know, the thing that David Oyelowo tells Matthew McConaughey about, like, you know, why are we, you know, focusing on space instead of like focusing on what's here in the world? I feel like that's where we are now. Like, we need to first improve, you know, the problems here on Earth before we focus on space exploration. Like, there's a lesson to be had there, even though space exploration is pretty awesome. Hey, just a word to the billionaires out there. Like, maybe listen to David Oyelowo every now and then. There's been these dust storms, global warming, there's a food crisis. It's also implied that there might have been like a war at some point, like a widespread war for supplies, which also would make complete sense for humanity to do if we reach this phase. Where the movie really gets going is when Cooper and Murph arrive at NASA after future Cooper put the coordinates into the falling sand and led them there. And we see like Taurus for the first time in that night shot. I've always thought that shot was like a little bit terrifying, but really, really cool. Dr. Brand briefs Cooper about the plan, which is, first there's plan A, which is for the Endurance to go through the wormhole, find a habitable planet to relocate humanity to, and then Brand in the meantime will solve this equation that will allow them to manipulate gravity and lift, you know, big space stations off of Earth so that all of humanity can effectively evacuate Earth in these space stations and travel to this new planet. And then plan B, which is, I guess, the easier one, but involves leaving all of humanity to die, is creating a new colony on a habitable planet with these frozen embryos. And y'all, listen, when we get to the stay scene on this rewatch, it's such a loud scene. This is one of the reasons I adore Chris Nolan, is because he just like turns the sound up to 200. And no, but that scene in particular, like on a rewatch, it just made me cry, because especially in this short like 40-minute first act of the movie, you already feel such a close bond between them. Even when she like sneaks onto the into his truck to get to the NASA place, like there's a real bond that you feel, and that's really the heart that guides this movie. One of the issues people have with this movie, and I understand it, is just the writing, like especially Anne Hathaway's speech where she says love is the one thing that transcends time and space. I get why people say it's on the nose. it doesn't bother me that much because at the core of this movie is this father-daughter relationship that ends up literally saving humanity. I get that it involves so much suspension of disbelief, but given that this is a sci-fi movie, like, even though, you know, compared to space movies like Gravity and whatever, this one looks the most, I guess, realistic in terms of the production design and the visuals. It looks the most like how it would look if you were in space. There's not a single moment where something feels unrealistic, but there's also so much intrigue in every single like pixel of the frame. Like you're seeing something that you would never see in a Hubble telescope, but it's like you're seeing it with the naked eye and not something that a computer just created. Like that wormhole scene in IMAX is just stunning. Again, like the sound design, he knows, Nolan, when to use the score to the benefit and when not to. And then Miller's Planet also was like such a amazing scene to see in IMAX. There's a few important shots in this. Like there's, you know, the part where you find out the mountains or the waves, and there's Hoyt van Hoytema does this a lot where he puts like the camera almost like a GoPro like on the edge of a vehicle. He does this a lot in Dunkirk and Spectre, and when the spaceship is like going up the wave is super cool, and then the wide shot when the ship is on top of the wave is so stunning because again you literally, it looks like an actual wave in the sea, but it's still creating this literally otherworldly setting for you. Props to everyone involved in that Miller's Planet scene. Even when I was younger and I saw this movie for like the first and the second time back when it came out, I was always a little bit pissed off at Case for leaving Doyle. Like Doyle was seconds away from getting on there and the wave just like whooshed him. He was right there. Like give your robotic hand to like yeet him into the spaceship. David Giassi also does a really great job here. I want to shout him out because I feel like he doesn't get much credit of capturing like the younger Romilly and the older Romilly. He's literally gone decades now of just researching without seeing a familiar human face and of just waiting for them. And so he adds on that wisdom, and there's a patience, but also like okay, come on, let's get the mission done. There's something really esteemed about that performance. Like, think about how massive a portion of Romilly's life passed through that Miller's Planet scene because of the proximity with the black hole. An hour is 7 years on Earth. I always thought that was like a brilliant story play from Nolan to play with. Let's talk about that for a second because Nolan's movies are very intricate. Like, this movie, even after the fourth time, I had to look up some things and explanations just to make sure I understood all the rules. I don't know. I personally really enjoy that he does this because it shows that he's looking at the audience as intellectuals, as people who can learn and accumulate information, and we can take in a lot of things that are important to the plot. Like, I know people think Tenet was too overly complicated, and maybe I agree a little bit, even though I love that movie because I'm such a Nolan fan and Nolan defender that I even really like Tenet. Nolan loves to mess with time also. This is not the only one. You know, Tenet, he inverts time. Dunkirk, the combos, Memento, the reverse chronology, Inception, all this slowing down too. He has this obsession with time that honestly, I respect the hell out of because it makes for really interesting stuff. We get back from Miller's Planet and we automatically go into the heartbreaking messages scene. And Matthew McConaughey does an amazing job of playing this because I was thinking about that. Like, Cooper has just gone in a span of hours from, because he also just had like the cryo sleep. So as far as he's concerned, it's only been a couple weeks since he saw his 10-year-old daughter, Murph. Suddenly his father-in-law has passed away and all these different things have happened, and he's missed so much of their lives, and like that feeling of them longing for him and missing him, and having missed so much of their lives and not being able to be there is crushing for him. And I think McConaughey's performance in that is so heartbreaking. Jessica Chastain also gives such a beautiful performance in this movie. It's actually one of my favorite performances of hers because you can tell she's like her father's daughter. And even though the world has become even more bleaker, she's taken this thing from her dad that's like this relentless optimism. When humanity thinks at this point that they're just sitting ducks, she still has this hope to solve the equation. And then Dr. Brand's revelation about the truth about Plan A, that it was just a lie because humanity wouldn't be able to work together if not to save themselves and just the future of the species. But I get it. Like, I don't think, like, would humanity collectively work together to get the mission going if they knew that, like, we ourselves would die and only the future of this species is ensured? Like, humans are kind of selfish. I still remember, like, they did not market Matt Damon being in this film at all. It was a huge surprise when he comes into the movie. And I also think this is one of my favorite Matt Damon performances. He is so powerful in this. And Mann's planet, by the way, also looks stunning. Like, these ice caps that serve as clouds, but frozen clouds, we want to call them. When Mann's true revelation is revealed, it gets really dark. Like, it gets really dark that he basically falsified information about his planet being habitable so he could just save himself from dying alone. And Cooper at this point understands that Plan A is not going to work, so he wants to just set up camp believing Mann's planet is habitable, then take the Endurance, go home to his children and die with them with the time he has left. And Mann's like, no, I need the ship to finish the mission. At this point, he has no idea if Edmund's planet or any other planets are even habitable because nobody besides the late Edmunds has actually been to Edmund's planet at this point. Yes, he could have just confessed to them, like, yeah, I lied because I was scared, sorry, and he would have gotten, like, chastised by them, and they would have never forgiven him for wasting resources and jeopardizing the future of humanity for his own ass. But he's also worried about his reputation. Mann is considered the greatest there ever was in terms of scientists and astronauts down on Earth. So if, posterity recognizes that Mann was this fraud who did this awful thing, he can't have that, which is why he tries to kill Cooper, even with the remorse that he has. He also, Matt Damon plays this remorse really well. It's almost a pitiful kind of like, I'm sorry, I can't watch what I've done to you. The docking scene, I think, like, one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced in a movie theater was seeing that for the first time back then. I think it's the silence that follows, like, Mann's death. Just like those few shots of silence and then the wide shots of the Endurance sort of turning around with a piece of it broken and, like, the debris flying off while Cooper and Brandon, the other ship, are, like, flying in. After this kerfuffle on Mann's planet that effectively wasted so much of their fuel and resources and resulted in one of their crewmates murdered, Cooper and Brand realize that the only thing they can do is slingshot off Gargantua to Edmund's planet in order to set up Plan B. Hopefully, if it's habitable, that is, which I don't think they're sure that it is at this point, while sacrificing Tars, and he's gonna, like, fly in to Gargantua to try and transmit data from a black hole, which is what was stopping them from, I guess, solving Plan A, because a black hole prevents light or information from coming out. And once you go into a black hole, you're done. And seeing the black hole inside was the information they needed to solve the equation. And then Cooper realizes that, there's no way that they can do this with this much weight, so he sacrifices himself as well. I remember the first time seeing this, I was gonna be ready to cry if Cooper died. Like, 12-year-old me had bonded so much with Cooper over these last 2 hours. I was not ready to see him go. But again, Hans Zimmer, shout out. I think the piece is called Detach. So once Cooper and Tars enter the black hole, things get weird. They enter a Tesseract, which has been built by human beings who have evolved thousands or even million years from now. This part is very vague, but I think it comes from Nolan's optimistic side, where he's saying, like, humans did this impossible thing, and now, millions of years from now, we've become these 5-dimensional beings because of our resourcefulness and our determination with technology. We figured out how to do this thing, and now humans planted this Tesseract in this moment in time so that Cooper could be Murph's ghost and send her the stay message and the NASA coordinates and the Plan A equation, which TARS then transmits to him. The whole realization that Murph has is also so moving. Like when she goes to Casey Affleck and says he never left us after giving his daughter the information she needs to save humanity by manipulating gravity with these massive space stations that can then leave Earth with all of the human race on it. Cooper wakes up on Cooper's station, named after his daughter, who's been rightfully hailed the hero and savior of humanity. And Ellen Burstyn plays that scene so beautifully. The final scene that Cooper has between Murph, something that I don't know if he ever thought was going to happen or she ever believed was going to happen. And that delivery of the line, "because my dad promised me," really, really moved me this time that I rewatched it. And then that ending, those last few minutes with the score and him going to Brand, and Brand has since found that Edmund's planet is in fact habitable, and she's setting up camp while humanity is on their way to join on their new home. And then Cooper steals the spaceship to go and find her. I just think those few moments are some of the most beautiful moments of closure to this epic story that I've ever felt. Watching this movie again really moved me. I got really emotional when it ended. Seeing it with an audience who I believe many had even seen it for the first time, but also plenty, I'm sure the majority were there after having seen it before and wanting to rewatch it, because Nolan, his films like Inception, The Dark Knight are such cultural stamps, and they've been such cinematic events that transcend generations. I think the same thing goes for Avatar, where even if you weren't old enough to see Inception in a theater, when they bring it back, you still want to feel like you want to be a part of that, because his movies are so big. And Interstellar in particular had such a profound impact on me as a movie lover and as a person. As for Nolan's filmography, this is one of my favorite films of his. I think there are two kinds of people. I think there are people who think Interstellar is a good movie with some iffy writing, and then people who think Interstellar is one of the best things ever. There's no in between. And I am in the latter. I absolutely love this movie. It is my personal favorite of his, followed, I think, by Oppenheimer. And I think, if you think The Dark Knight is better than this, Inception, you're probably right. But again, this movie is just one of the most special films to me. Every time there's a movie I see in theaters now that I love, it's like Interstellar was always the gold standard after that for an experience that moved me, for sci-fi epics like that. Arrival and Dune Part 2 are the things that came close for life-changing theater experiences. But I don't know, this movie's always going to mean so much to me, and I'm so glad that it holds up to me so well on a rewatch like this. Let me know in the comments how many times you've seen Interstellar and what your favorite Christopher Nolan movie is. Be sure to click those like and subscribe buttons, and as always, stay tuned for more here on the channel.